All right, guys, welcome to today's video. And in today's video, we're going to talk about deload weeks. And yes, I've been posting a lot about these on my Instagram story and even on my page and whatnot. So you guys have probably heard a lot of information about them. Maybe you're a little annoyed with me talking about them, but I just figured since I just came off a deload week, I would do like an in-depth kind of recap of what exactly I did during that week and how I went about going through a deload week. And also, it's really simple. What even is a deload week? Lots of us don't even know what deload weeks are, and they don't really know the purpose. So here, I hope to kind of explain that and explain how you can incorporate them and use them to ultimately benefit your performance in the gym or whatever you're training for. So I'm gonna see you guys in a second here with tip number one. All right, so I mentioned that I'm gonna talk about tip number one now, and I don't really know why I said a tip because this isn't really like a step plan. I'm just gonna go over some key points. So the first key point I'm gonna go over is really just what is a deload week. And essentially a deload week, all it is just a period in your training where you reduce the volume of your training and the intensity of your training. So what I mean by volume reduction is, say you're doing 20 sets of an exercise per week. So say you do 20 sets of chest movements a week. On a deload week, you'd only do 10 sets per week. So you cut the chest volume in half. You cut the volume in half completely for whatever you're training. And you also cut the intensity in half. And by intensity, I'm more so in terms of bodybuilding, just mean the weight. So essentially a deload week is just a week at a time. So 6 to 7 days where you cut your training volume. So cut the reps completely in half. And then you also cut the weight completely in half. And what this is gonna do is it's a smart way to let your body recover, your CNS recover, and your muscles rebuild without taking a complete week off. And that's the other thing I will say. You don't necessarily have to do deload weeks. Sometimes people just will just take a complete week off in general from training, and that's totally fine. But if you're the person like me who doesn't really want to do that and they still want to be doing something, a deload week is a very beneficial option. And honestly, this is where you're gonna see a lot of your muscle gains and your strength gains from, because like we all know, you only break down your muscles in the gym, and when they actually grow is when you're resting and recovering, and that's when they build back up. So essentially this is just like a prolonged period of rest, and it's very strategic in the fact that you can take these and then you'll come back much more fresh, stronger, and potentially see a lot more muscle growth after the fact. So I think that kind of explains what a deload week is, kind of what you do during the deload week. So now for the next tip, I'm gonna get into, I'll see you guys here in a second. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna talk about is who should take a deload week. And honestly, this is a very simple answer, and that is everybody. It doesn't even matter if you're a bodybuilder or not. If you are doing some form of physical activity, whether you are like a professional athlete and you are training for an event, whether you are a power lifter, whether you are a runner, whether you are even a bodybuilder, deload weeks have a time and a place for everyone. And it doesn't matter what your sport is, because obviously if you're very passionate with something and you work very hard at something, you're gonna keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing yourself. And at a certain point, your body is gonna be taking a lot of load. And it doesn't matter really what sport that is, because whatever sport you're playing, ultimately your body's gonna be taxed in one way or another. And at a certain point, your body needs to just get a completely recover, so you can continue to tax your body and not injure yourself. And you can also progress in whatever you're trying to work towards. So everyone should take a deload week. I think that's it for that section there. Okay, so for this part, I'm gonna talk about how we can use deload weeks most effectively and efficiently. So personally, and I think how majority of people do use them and should use them, is in between a training block or a training program. So most bodybuilders, and myself included, they structure their training in certain blocks or mesocycles, and they're just periods of time. And usually these blocks or training blocks, I will go from anywhere from 6 to even 10 weeks at a time. And that's when I'm following a certain period in my program and not changing a single thing and just focusing on progressing in whatever I'm working on for those 6 to 8 weeks. So once those 6 to 8 weeks are done, before I just jump right into a new training block or continue whatever I was just training, it's very important to take a deload week. And it's very important that you take these weeks serious, because if you are very passionate about something, which I can imagine whatever you're doing it because you're passionate about, you need to take these seriously, because these are what's going to allow you to keep going forward and doing what you're passionate about. So if you just keep going and going and going, and I know lots of us will do that, and because mentally we just don't have the switch in our brain to turn ourselves off, because we get so involved and so enthusiastic and excited to do something that we don't want to take a step back and take a break, that we end up injuring ourselves or just not seeing much progress because our body is so drained and tired. And honestly, until this year, I really didn't take much deload weeks at all, just because, like I just said, that switch in my brain didn't want to flip off, and I didn't understand that in order to move forward, sometimes we have to take a step back. So I guess you can say, taking a step back to take 2 steps forward. It's kind of that kind of thing. And it's hard because you always want to keep going and going. So it's really hard not to overdo it in a deload week. And when I say reduce the weight in half, reduce the reps in half, I really mean reduce everything in half, because that's what's going to allow you to properly recover. You can still reduce everything in half, but then you do some sort of thing to get some sort of a stimulus out of it. You're not supposed to come out of the gym during a deload week absolutely just drained and wrecked. You're supposed to come out of the gym just fresh, honestly, like nothing really happened at all. It's really just a way to get you, I guess, moving around, but not tax your body, and just let your body recovery and actually aid the recovery. So that's really how I recommend to use them, just after a training block, in between the new block, and it'll really help you transition more smoothly into your next block of training. Okay, so even though deload weeks are very easy and they're not supposed to be hard on your body, it doesn't mean there can't be challenges with them. I think there's challenges with everything, and I think it's important with something to note the challenges and what you personally struggle with, because others might feel the same way as well. So I know personally with the deload week, the biggest thing for me is mentally just having to commit to cutting everything in half, because it's almost like you really have to check your ego during a deload week, because it's hard, because you've been making so much progress, your strength's been going up, you've been making gains in the gym, but then all of a sudden you cut the weight in half, and all of a sudden you're moving this baby weight, and literally it's like, I don't lift a whole lot of weight in the first place. I'm not the strongest person, so for me to cut the weight on my bench press in half and be benching just a plate on each side, that's kind of, it feels kind of embarrassing in a way, and it's hard because lots of us, if we don't have the confidence in ourselves, we're going to worry about what other people are thinking. And I'm kind of one of the last people I know to worry about what others think. I don't really give a shit about anything, but I just know lots of us do have this problem, and we are going to worry about what people think. But there's nothing I can really tell you about this other than just to not give a fucking shit. You got to just do your thing and not worry about what anyone else thinks. If you're in the gym, you're most likely in the gym for your own personal benefit, and you shouldn't be in the gym just to make someone else happy. So it's not going to matter what other people think, and that's one of the things that we have to learn when we go through deload weeks like this. Just don't have an ego, trust the process, and trust that you're only making yourself stronger and more muscular, and you're just going to better yourself in the future in your training. And that's just really the overall thing that we struggle with, is just committing to the week because of the things like worrying about what other people think, or not letting your ego get in the way. So it's hard to stay committed to it. We might say something that we're gonna let ourselves recover and take this week off or deload week, but we don't actually do that because we have an ego and we're insecure. So just don't let those things get in the way, and take this as serious as you can and commit to a deload week, because it's really gonna help you progress and get you stronger. And I think that's really all I have to say about deload weeks right now. So really just cut everything in half, cut the reps in half, cut the weight in half, keep your tempo, everything else relatively the same, your time between sets, your resting, keep that the same, but just cut everything in half. And I would recommend doing these every 6 to 10 weeks. Just kind of feel it out. Sometimes your body, after a certain training block, you might be 6 weeks and you're already just drained and you need that deload week. But sometimes you might be feeling good and it's already been 6 weeks, but you're feeling really good and you want to push it for another 2 weeks. Go for 8 weeks, then have your deload week, or 10 weeks, then have your deload week. So it's just kind of a preference thing, and just kind of listening to your body. And ultimately you're just going to learn to do that as you continue to advance in the gym. So I think that's all. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and I'd be glad to help you guys out. So see you guys later. Peace.